So Far Cry 5 was released in 2018, so it's been 5 years since the game first came out. And I remember that in the beginning months of the game's release, it received a lot of negative reviews and backlash. So now that I've played every game from Far Cry 1 to Far Cry Primal and reviewed it on my channel, it was time to review Far Cry 5. Now the game is set in America and in Montana to be exact, and it revolves around a doomsday cult called the Project at Eden's Gate, led by the fanatical leader Joseph Seed, who's also known as the Father. And we players take on the role of a rookie deputy who just arrived in Hope County to help arrest Joseph Seed for all his activities he has done. However, this is Far Cry, so obviously the arrest doesn't go as planned, and we become trapped in Hope County, cut off from the outside world, due to the crazy control that the cult has. And what I immediately noticed was that Far Cry 5 looked extremely realistic. Like even when you compare it to Far Cry Primal, there was a big upgrade. You know, in some sequences while I was roaming through the world or hunting some animals, it really felt like I was watching a movie because it actually got very close to real life. And the game's open world is absolutely beautiful. You know, it's just what I think when I think about the beautiful countrysides of the USA. And it gives you forests, mountains and cities to explore. But the open world is divided into 3 parts, and the mission system and the story from typical video games, because every part out of those 3 has one leader, and in particular one sibling of Joseph Seed. You know, on one hand you have John, the second part is led by Jacob, and the third part is controlled by their sister Faith. And every single part of those involves their own story, their own small main quest. But it's quite likely that when you have played Far Cry 5 and a friend of yours has also played Far Cry 5, you have played very different missions, because you firstly need to weaken and gain resistance in that specific part to progress in the main story. So while completing side missions or while completing missions for side characters, your resistance grows. And only when you've gained enough resistance, you'll be able to fight the main villain in that specific area, and will have the possibility to liberate the region. And you know, I was very surprised to see that they actually put some time into the side missions. Like obviously they were quite repetitive when it came to the gameplay. You know, you had to kill some people, pick something up and get it back to the person. But the stories around them were really interesting. You know, one of my first side missions was a crazy guy who claimed he built a time machine and was trying to move in space and time. And also the collectibles, like the pepper stashes, were really quite creative, because you know, you don't just have to go somewhere and pick something up. The treasures are very often hidden. Like once I had to use the zipline for like 1 minute in order to get to the location where the pepper stash was located. So I have to say that the reworked mission system was kind of refreshing for me, and I really enjoyed the new mechanic. However, I have to say that still in general I prefer the more linear and constant mission system in video games, where you have your main stories and your side quests that you can do. Because here, even the more known missions, you kind of lose your motivation to do them. The region has been liberated, Joseph Seed's sibling has been killed, but you're still roaming around because some quests are open. Like after some time the motivation really fades. And also what I found really weird here was that if you have been marked, so if you have reached a certain checkpoint in your resistance, the villains will come for you and try to hunt you down. But here there's nothing you can do, you simply fall asleep like it's magic. You know, there's literally nothing you can do, and I would like it much more. Let's say you reach some checkpoint and a villain is looking for you, they actually try to kill you and send like 20 vehicles with 100 enemies in them, so that you have no choice of escaping, but actually just falling down or passing out and then waking up in the prison of some villain, even though I was just in the bunker of the resistance, literally the safest place in the whole open world, and then suddenly passing out and being in the hands of Joseph or Jacob Seed was really weird, and I think could definitely be improved. But I have to say that the story in general does not make a lot of sense. But you know, Far Cry isn't known to have great stories obviously, but they still made a better job in other games. But I have to say that during the game, and especially in the ending, you have a lot of jaw droppers, and I was literally playing the game thinking, did that just happen? Even though I have already played it 5 years ago. And one thing that I do not understand at all is why doesn't the protagonist speak? I mean, literally there were times where it was so awkward, like 2 side characters were showing them their new baby, telling you that they had named it after you, and he's just standing there saying absolutely nothing. Like, I understand, you don't have to talk as much as Geralt in The Witcher 3, but at least some sentences every couple of hours would definitely make the game way better and get the player more emotionally invested into the whole story. But I have to say that Far Cry 5 did one thing better than any previous Far Cry game did. And I'm talking about the soundtrack of the game. Like, the soundtrack really captured every emotion you could feel and was so diverse and so thrilling. Like, you had great soundtracks for just roaming the world. You had great American soundtracks with actual singing in it that really emphasized and strengthened some scenes very much. And especially Faith. Like, Faith's Bliss soundtrack was literally one of the best ones that I have heard in a long time in a video game.
He gave her hope and confidence. The father showed her how special she was. She was full of love and life. He gave her a new family, one that accepted her just...
You know, it was so good that it even made the cult and even Skate sound great and harmless. And so, soundtracks are very often neglected when it comes to video games, and people don't realize how much of an impact they actually make. And Far Cry 5 really made a great job when it came to the soundtrack, and I just had to mention it in my review. And so, all in all, after spending 27 hours in Far Cry 5, I really have to say that I enjoyed the game quite a lot. It's not on the level of other Far Cry games, and I still think that they made quite a great job when it came to capturing the American open world. And for a European guy like me, who lives on the other side of the world, it was really nice to see America and explore it like you could in Far Cry 5. The game definitely has some flaws in it. As I said, the fact that the protagonist doesn't speak at all was very hard to swallow for me. But all in all, I have to say that the pros definitely outweigh the cons, and I would give Far Cry 5 something like a 7.5 out of 10. Now I want to hear your opinion of Far Cry 5, because as I said, especially in the beginning and when it came out, a lot of people kind of hated the game and gave a lot of negative reviews. But for me it was really a good game and I really enjoyed my time in it. So what do you guys think about Far Cry 5 and how would you rank it among the Far Cry series? Also, I wanted to note that there are only 2 Far Cry games left, Far Cry New Dawn and Far Cry 6, that I will play and review in the upcoming weeks, and after that I will rank every Far Cry game, every Far Cry world, so feel free to subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future. And that was it from me in today's video. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.